Today I'm going to colour another colouring book illustration and I'll be using every single colour in the largest marker set.
Oh my gosh.
It's like I like to punish myself or something. So I hope you're ready, so let's go.
So I'm going to use this Flower Girls colouring book by Em's Drawings again. But first, here is Miss from last time.
If you watched that video, you'll know how nervous I was to even attempt this, but she came out stunning. I'm gonna name her Daphne Rosalie. I think it just fits her vibe so well. So thank you guys for the suggestions. And now to look for one for today.
So because I'm trying to use every single marker, I want to find one with loads of flowers in the background, something like this, where you can really colour each individual one. Or maybe each of the twists in a different colour. Okay, so I love this vibe. So I'm actually thinking of doing something quite different. So instead of just colouring the girl normally and then making a super colourful background, I want to inject loads of colour into our main girl as well. I don't know if you've seen those portraits that are super colourful. So I want maybe like a yellow, orange on this side going over to a gradient of purples and blues on the other side. I'm going to use this back test page to figure out my colour placements.
But before we get into the colouring,
a few of my faves have also done similar videos, so Drawing with Waffles and Super Razor's. And I think in Rin's video, she swatched it as she used it, but I don't think I can do that because I think I would need to know what swatches are what before I actually pick the colours, you know? It's time to swatch these, I think.
Here are all the markers. I've got this on ultra wide framing because this is what it would look like normally, but to barely get it all in. Wide frame it is. The swatch cards are in here. Should I pour it all out? All 300 markers? Oh my gosh. I think I missed it. I might as well just start trying to group it.
pouring the markers like that was definitely a mistake because it went absolutely everywhere. When I say under the table, just all over the place. And I'm just trying to group it roughly. So this is more so like I can work in sections of colours rather than a whole jumbled up mess. And actually, I don't understand why Hoohoo don't sell the markers like this already. I feel like I really struggle to see a wide range of colours when it's just jumbled up. Do you care if your markers and your colour pencils are grouped, or is it just however it comes?
Oh my gosh, we are done. That took 25 minutes. I think I've got everything in here off of the floors. Now to actually swatch them.
The swatching process was really long and kind of tedious, but I think it's such an important step because the colours on the caps don't necessarily match the actual ink on the inside. So having a swatch and just having a reference card helps to make sure that the colour you're picking is really the colour you're trying to pick, basically. I am really impressed by the colour range. But in another breath, who needs these many greens? Who needs these many blues? Who needs these many pinks and purples? For one piece, you definitely don't need these many colours. A lot of them are very similar. So if you're thinking about buying a set like this, I think it's absolutely not necessary. But shout out to Hoohoo for sending me these. It's a nice wide variety, but low-key unnecessary.
So I'm nearing the end. I still have some blank spaces, and at this point, it's a mission to try to find one random colour.
I'm trying to go through line by line. It's giving Where's Waldo? Trying to read the name off of the card and trying to find one particular colour. It is long.
So here are all the swatch cards. I managed to find all of the swatches on these two cards. I'm actually quite surprised about the variety of greys we've got, but I'm loving like the earth tones. I'm surprised at the number of browns we've got as well, actually. On these two, I'm missing 3 of the swatches, and at this point, I can't die looking for these markers. I tried in it. The markers also have this new design with this, cutout, which I think is pretty cute. Comparing it to the older ones, this is the brush tip marker, and this is another chisel tip. But here is what each marker looks like. Chisel tip on one side and bullet nib on the other. And now it is colouring time. So I'm thinking if I use the yellows on the right side of her face, and I can go from like lighter to darker. Then on the transition, we want to use orange. And then from orange, I want to go to like the purples. So it's a bit of like a harsh lighting. And then we'll have some like, I know it's looking a mess. I would say trust me, but I don't even know if I trust me. Let's be real. And then we can have like the sharp reds in this corner. And then the hair, I'm going to pick a slightly lighter yellow. Can have like the highlights of yellow coming on this side. And then we can pick some of the earth tone to blend out the hair. But the idea is the hair is meant to be quite dark. So we'll build up to a really dark color, I think. On this side, I want to bring in some of the highlights. So we'll have some blues, greens. So the hair will still be this dark color. You just have like the highlights and the glows from these other colors, and the point is to use different variations and different shades of these colors to hopefully blend into each other. I don't want to use coloring pencils for this piece because it is like a marker challenge. And we can bring in some purples. I don't know, it's looking a mess. And then what I had in my mind was yellow to red to pink going down here, and then blue to purple, maybe green to blue to purple going here. And so I cover the entire rainbow. So I'm just gonna quickly mark where the main colors will go. Oh my gosh, where the gray's gonna go? In her clothes, But the thing is, it can't just be gray, it needs to be like super colorful as well. Some of it will have to go in her hair. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so difficult. Yeah, I don't even have the energy to look at the swatches if I'm gonna be real. Just got too much to do. I don't know how we're gonna use all of those grays. For the leaves, I could start with like lighter greens up here and then go to like mid-tone greens in the middle. The way I'm colouring this is so higgy and haggard. So deep greens on this side, but more earthy greens on this side since we got two earthy tones. Okay, so the great thing about this tester page is that I can play around with things and decide what I want to move forward with. So I haven't coloured in the background yet. Maybe the grey can be the background since there'll be so much colour. I think that's actually a great idea. So I'll start with the background and then see how I'm feeling for the skin. So what I'm going to do so that you know and believe I am using every single colour is that I've got this completely in frame so you can see me actually going through. So I really want to work through a whole section and then move on. So I'll put them in here and then put them back before I continue.
I'm going to use this little key on the bottom left to tick off when I've done a whole section. I'm starting with the yellows and kind of easing into the oranges, and hopefully in the end it'll form a nice blend. But from that tester page, you can already see that I have an idea of what I want, but I don't have a clear direction. Everything is still kind of up in the air. If you watched my Danso dollar store video, I was explaining about how I kind of had art block recently, and I think doing challenges like this really helps because firstly, I'm doing it in a colouring book, so I don't have to worry about making a super accurate sketch or a nice illustration. But also having the challenge of using every single marker colour has really expanded what the outcome can look like. But also that kind of restriction just really brings out creativity, so I'm excited to try this, even if I'm very nervous.
Didn't really think it'll get this deep, but I need a second pot. Okay, midway check-in. I'm quite surprised that I've basically used all of the yellows and oranges from here and I've not covered that much. So all of a sudden this challenge feels doable.
Continuing on to the reds and the pinks, I'm not really trying to be accurate by what exactly each flower is. I don't know my flowers anyway. So if something is meant to be blue and I'm colouring it in pink, I'm sorry, innit? But for the most part, I'm trying to use one or two colours for the base and then adding in detail with some of the deeper tones for each colour. I also try to change up the camera view so you're not just looking at the same thing top down, but best believe I'm still doing the same thing of taking the marker from the left and then putting it in the cups on the right when I'm done with it.
So I am nearly done with the first section, the yellows, oranges to red and pinks. I really like how this has turned out actually. I think I'm missing some oranges and reds. So I'd like to move on to the next section. So I'm gonna put these back. And the ones I didn't use from this section, I'm gonna keep them here. I think I'll need them more for the neutral bit so they can stay here. Okay. So time to move on to the reds and purples.
In each color section, I'm really trying to get a wide range of values. So I've got some darker reds and I'm adding some darker purples, but I'm also trying to get some light values as well, because if you look at the marker set, I've got a lot of pastel-y kind of colors as well, like the really light pinks and the lilacs. So this will be a good place to add that. And I think next to this section, I'll probably do the neutrals. So I'm also trying to edge into some of the more mauve colors. So this feels like a good place for these colors.
I've got these purples remaining and I think they'll be good and used with these later. So I'm gonna add them to this section and I'm gonna move on to this section.
And now it's time for the greens. So green is not one of my favorite colors in life. I don't know why. I'm not a big fan. However, sometimes I see the vision. There's some shades of green that I'm like, ooh, okay, I hear that. But for this piece, I'm not really trying to do green flowers really, because green is going to be used all over the piece for the leaves. And like I said on the tester page, I can go from like lighter greens at the top and then going deeper as I go down the page. And I could also do more of the, you know, khaki and the foresty kind of greens. Is that the right word? I don't know. But I can do more of those with the neutral flower colors. So I'm not really trying to do green flowers in this step. I just want to have some sort of a link between the yellow on the top right and then the blues in the top left. At this point, I still have loads of blues to go. So I'm going to use some of these extra colors just to add some shading, add some details, really expand the values for each of the flowers. The blues are more or less done. I've left spaces for the leaves that I'll come back to. And the final thing I want to do is I want the bottom left section to be neutrals. So I want to do this palish, faded kind of purple and maybe use that as a buffer to get to the neutral section. Yeah, I'm not really sure about that though.
Okay, so I am done with all of my blues and purples and I'm really liking it. I'm gonna leave the greens till last to go around where I've got all the colors. So I'm just going to bring these that I haven't used out and I will keep them on this side. And then I'm going to put these that I have used back in place. I think I'm now gonna do the browns.
This is probably the riskiest part of this whole colouring process. Actually, colouring the girl is going to be a mess with the colourful idea I have. But I have so many neutrals. I've got this entire top left section of neutrals. And I had to Google some different colour flowers. I found some brown flowers that are quite nice. So I'm thinking of doing the big focal point flower there in brown. And then using some of the other browns to add some details. It's obviously a bit of a risk because brown flowers to me gives the flowers are dead, like you barely kept it alive. But it also could turn out so nice. So without a reference, this is kind of hard, but I'm just trying to use the different colors to add some detail and to add some blending. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I am liking how this is looking. And now I've managed to use most of the neutrals. I'm quite shocked. But the remaining browns, I'm just using it. We've got some small flowers in the bottom left. And I'm just using it to just quickly, 1 or 2 lines each, because I can't see where else it can go, to be honest.
So, done with the browns, and I actually love how this big brown flower turned out. Now, the last section I have not touched is this grey section. Everything else has been used. Can you believe it? Okay, so I'm going to return the earth tones, skin tones, whatever, back to this section. Then I'm going to do the greens.
This is probably the easiest part of this entire video because there's so many leaves on the page. There's so many different shades of green. I can use one for the base, and I can use another one to add some detail, to add shading, add dots. The different flowers almost demand for a different shade of green in the first place as well. So this is quite an exciting stage, and I actually think it just helps to tie the entire piece together. Now it's becoming one piece, it's looking quite cohesive, and I am loving this floral background.
Okay, so greens are done, and I actually love how this is looking. So this is the last section I've barely touched. I'm going to put them out here so that I remember that I still need to use them. And I'll return the rest of it to a trifle spot.
The next day.
A girl is tired, it has to get done today. So I've got my grey markers, these are the ones I haven't touched yet. I'm going to use those, but before I work on the background, I'm going to work on the colourful face that we practiced over here. That was a bit of a haggard mess. We're going to try that again, but hopefully be a bit nicer. Let's go.
I'm so surprised that we've used nearly every colour in this final set. The only colours we haven't used yet are those greys that you see out in the pots. And it's crazy because when I thought about doing this challenge in the first place, I just thought on an A4 piece, Temi, are you crazy? And lo and behold, we've been able to use every single colour, and it's not even just one swipe. I've been colouring actual flowers and actual shapes with each and every single colour. I'm just happy that we're near the end. And now for the face, this is definitely the most nerve-wracking part. I was initially considering only using all of the colours on the background and then making her look quite natural, but I just thought the point of this challenge is for me to challenge myself. So this is the perfect kind of piece to try a dynamic lighting, and there's a big risk that it just wouldn't turn out nice. But honestly, and I say this in every single colouring page, this is just a fun video. If it turns out higgy and haggard, okay, we'll learn from it, and next time it'll be even better. So I started with the fiery right side, so the yellows and the oranges, and then I've gone into the cooler, warmer colours. I'm not really sure how to combine it in the middle of her face, but I'm definitely liking how it's turning out. And I'm using some of the fluorescent colours in this set, and I think it just makes her look so vibrant and it pops greatly. Next, for her hair, I'm just going to apply what I want the highlight colours to be. So I'm started with yellow to orange and red on the right side, and then blue to green and maybe purples on the left side. This is where I'm completely going in blind because I actually have no idea how this will turn out. I'm kind of just following the flow of the hair and hoping for the best. Now I'm adding in some browns, and I actually want her hair color to be very dark. The purpose of all of these light colors is just because I have to worry about how I'm applying the markers. Because I'm not going to use coloring pencils over the top, bright highlight colors need to show through after I do the dark colors. I really hope that makes sense. So I'm working slowly down to the darker colors. And now it's looking colorful. Some may say chaotic, but I say dynamic. And so I'm finally reaching out for some of these grays that I haven't used for the piece yet, just to try to mute the colors a little bit. Still adding some of the actual colors because I want to keep the colors there, but now I can slightly go darker and darker with the hair. I am loving how this is looking. I think the hint of color in the hair is exactly what I was going for. Just gonna finish off our lady and the skin, and then we can move on to the background.
Just gonna quickly washi tape.
Picking this background color wasn't easy, and I ended up cutting this out, but I tried a few different grays on the actual piece, and I wanted something that was light enough so that it wasn't distracting, but I actually wish I went darker for the background, but it is what it is. I'm not too mad at this medium gray that I settled on. And now the background is done, the final thing I need to do to complete this challenge is to finish the grays that are in these pots. So my idea behind this is just to use it for some shadowing and some blending in the hair, but also for some detail in some of these flowers. So some of these grays should form nice subtle changes in tone, which can really help. So if you have a smaller set and you have a couple of grays, adding gray to your color can just help to make a slightly darker version of that color. And oh my gosh, the pot is finally empty. The final thing in here is a colorless blender. There's not much I can do with this, so I don't think it really counts, but we are done. Okay, the final thing I need to do for the actual piece is for the top. I was initially just going to use the grays to keep it kind of neutral, but I think it needs to be somewhat colorful. So I'm just gonna add hints of color and then we can call it a day. Using every single marker in the largest set, challenge accepted and completed. I added some more details and shading off camera, but here is what the completed piece is looking like. I love that I really challenged myself with this one to make her colorful and all dynamic and all of that, and I really like how it turned out. Let me know what we should name her down in the comments, and I'm sure you love my other coloring book videos next.